So at this point, you know half of all there is to know about redemptive conversations. So we got to feel good about that. Yep. Come on in. Continue digesting, but stop eating. So my wife and I, after graduate school, moved to Huntersville, North Carolina. I was working on InterVarsity staff, which is a campus ministry, so I was making a pretty low salary, and we found a house. We had 3 kids at the time. We found a house that was built in the 1890s. It was a quaint little house. That's what you call them when they're built in the 1890s, and needed a lot of work and had problems with it. In fact, there was no insulation in the whole house, underneath and the sides or in the roof. So whenever we got a dust bunny, we would leave it for the R value, right? So one year it gets really, really cold. It stays like below 10 for 3 or 4 days. I wake up, I'm getting ready to go to work, and my wife, Jean, who's here now somewhere, there's Jean in the back. Hi, Jean, wave your hand. Jean tells me, she says, there's no water. That's all she says, but there was this implication that I was supposed to know what to do, right? Which I thought was pretty arrogant. So I went to the faucet and turned it on, and I said, there's no water. I didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do. 3 small kids at home. It's not supposed to get out of the teens that day. And so I came up with a plan, which was to go to work. Because, you know, those college students need me. And maybe it will heal itself. You know, so I didn't know what to do. I was kind of spinning, thinking about what to do. And I said, well, in case it comes on, I'm going to go ahead and go get dressed and, you know, get ready and go to work. So I went and got in the shower and was standing there naked in the shower and turned the water on. I forgot. There's no water. So I was naked, I was afraid, and I was hiding. Right? So that's the direction of human behavior. If you want a short understanding of what people are like, there it is. We're naked. We're made so that we're dependent on God. We're vulnerable. It's the best thing about you, but it's the thing you're most ashamed of. Very best thing about you. If you weren't vulnerable, you couldn't be hugged, talked to, comforted, known. None of that could happen. But we're also afraid, and the direction we take that is to hiding. So you guys know me pretty well. How do I hide? What are my fig leaves? Get a couple of takers on that? People that don't know me before today, what would you say are my ways of hiding? Humor. Okay. Yeah. So I get uncomfortable. I tell a joke, right? When my wife wants to talk about something serious, she really appreciates this trait. Right? Somebody else, how else might I hide? Work. Or another version of that is go hide, right? Go hide somewhere. Work is one way. Did I give you any more today? The lacrosse championships? Television, right? I have a couple of favorite appliances when I'm hiding. Television, refrigerator, car helps. So I have my ways of hiding. And the idea here, and Kim was on it, the idea here is when I'm insecure, which is kind of like all the time, I find some way to take care of that. We all do, don't we? That's just, it feels not like a profound thing. That's just normal. That's what it feels like. When I'm afraid, I go hide. When I'm thirsty, I go get something to drink. So that's what that Jeremiah 2 passage is so helpful. My people have committed 2 sins, God says. One, they've forsaken me, the fountain of living water, and they've dug for themselves cisterns that don't hold water. Right? So cistern. Anybody know what a cistern is? Right. You got in the church, you got the brethren, and you got the cistern. A cistern is basically a big pot under the water. It's a big reservoir or a reservoir underwater, sometimes clay lined, but it's still water, and they used it in the Middle East to store water. And so what we do is, I don't want to depend on God. I don't want to depend on other people either. So I go build my own cistern, something I can depend on to keep me safe or to make me feel better when I'm afraid or when I'm threatened or when I need something. I go to my cistern. Now the trouble with cisterns is that they are broken cisterns. They don't hold water, and they're a way of avoiding the fountain of living water. So turn to page 8. Is it page 8? Is that number 5, Roman number 5? Is that right? 4, I knew that. For disappointment and depravity, hiding, covering ourselves with a relational style. Okay, so that's a direction of human behavior. What's the problem with hiding? Well, another way of saying it, the problem with hiding is you might succeed. You might distance yourself from people and from God. And then you've maintained your control, but Jesus said if you try to save your life, you lose it. And that's what happens. So what is a relational style? Now, Kim and I have master's degrees, and so this gets a little bit technical, this part. So bear with this definition. Okay. Try to hang with me. So we all have a way, a pattern or a habit with which we relate. We develop it. It's part personality, part choice, part self-protection, part what we've learned. A relational style is how we relate. Now, the reason that we're going here, remember we're talking about dignity and depravity, and in this section we're talking about depravity. How does your self-centeredness, your self-management, your independence, how does it show itself? Well, there's lots of ways where it shows itself. We could talk about specific behaviors, addictions, whether they be immoral or moral addictions. We could talk about the way you treat people. But we're looking at one of the ones that you carry about with you everywhere you go. The way you handle life is a relational style. And for today's discussion, relational style is all bad. So there's other ways you can use the word, like personality is not all bad. But the way we're talking about it is how we use our style, our habits in a bad way. Okay? So in that sense, it's an idolatry. When it's used to cover ourselves without depending on God or without an intent to love one another. So when Jean hurts my feelings and I flee the room, who am I thinking about? I'm thinking about myself. Now, in a way, that's okay because I'm hurt. I need to deal with my pain. But I'm thinking about how I'm going to manage that pain without her. Without her, without God. All right? So it's idolatry, the way I manage pain or cover myself without depending on God. If I go back and talk to Jean about what happened, I have to go back into my hiding and back into my fear and go to her vulnerably, right? And what's going to happen then? Well, I don't know. So I want something I do know. I know what happens on that lacrosse tournament. Somebody wins and somebody loses, and I don't have to deal with anybody. I know what happens. But if I go talk to my wife, all kinds of things might happen. She may be critical or aloof or not interested in what I have to say. Or worse, she could take me seriously. And then what would I do? Right? Because then that implies more vulnerability, doesn't it? So it's an idolatry, a way we cover ourselves without depending on God. Could you look up what time I'm supposed to finish? So I'll ask you in just a second. I think it's around 5 o'clock. Relational style is the way we carry ourselves. Kim mentioned this. It might be funny, flirty, flighty, furtively, formidably. What do you do when you're unsure or a little ill at ease? Again, that's all the time, but there's particular times when you might feel it more. So for example, if you go home today and there's a bunch of cars outside your house and there's a party going on and you didn't know it, how would you handle that situation? What? Call the police? Is that what somebody's... Some of you might. If you walk in, each I would handle it differently. Okay, stop it, 110. Okay. So some of you would walk in and join the party, right? You'd walk in, grab a drink, go find the central location and start telling stories, right? Some of you would come in and you'd find the wall. And you would walk around the wall till you found the exit. Right? Church, when we have the visiting time, right? The visiting time, we're supposed to go visit. I hate that time. And so what I do sometimes is I go find things to be helpful, carry the trash out, right? Pour drinks. Because that way it kind of covers me a little bit, right? We all find certain ways. Some of you would go find someone that you're comfortable with and attach yourself to them. Right? We do different things. That's our style. That's what I mean. Everyone has a relational style, and it begins early and develops over time. Now, all I'm saying there is you develop your way of socializing and interacting with the world from the time you're really little. Kim gave the illustrations about the researcher and the move-oner in your house, right? We do that very little. You see kids learn how to handle the dinner table. Some of them act out, right? Some of them throw food. Some of them try to disappear. Okay. So I know this couple. I worked with them for months. Really nice couple. They would fit right in right here. But at home, they had some terrible, terrible arguments. Soul-crushing, cursing arguments that would spontaneously happen. But they tried to keep their kids away from it. They both dearly love their children, and they tried to keep them insulated for that. So one day, they're in the kitchen. Their little boy, he's about 6. He's over in the corner. He's got a fire truck, and the fire truck has a microphone on it, a real microphone, so you can talk through it, and it sounds, out. But it's a pretty cool little truck. And so they're kind of moving around the kitchen, and they bump into each other. Where's the mayonnaise? And it started, and it escalated, and it became a all-out verbal assault on one another. They're into it. And then they hear this. Hello, police. Come on down. There's a man being ugly. That was their little boy in the corner over the microphone. And they did what you did. They laughed. So what does he learn about how you handle dilemmas, pain, tenseness, right? He's going to grow up and he's going to tell jokes to his wife when his wife needs something else, right? So it develops early, begins early and develops over time. We learn it, we train ourselves. When I would come home from school to develop my comedic style, I would turn on the TV and watch all the comedy shows, right? And I would practice. So we all do the same thing. Relational style is a way to hide. It's the outside of an inner strategy that we've said that before. So it's the inside. You want to manage your own pain. You do it some way on the outside. What's the purpose of relational style? It's to cover your nakedness and for control. I want to manage my life. I want to manage how much grace I get. I want to manage how much love I get. I want to manage how much damage I get somehow. And I do it by learning how to do it behaviorally or with a relational style so I can do it, so I can manage it. So, for example, if I get hurt by a woman when I'm a teenager, I'll make a resolve that I'm never going to be hurt again. And maybe that means I avoid women entirely, or maybe I try to subtly intimidate women when I'm around them. But the inner strategy will show out eventually. So here's a quote from Professor Peter Piper from the Perspectives on Personality Preference. People are purposeful. This is more prevalent than previously pondered. People pick their personality preferences with two particularly prominent purposes. First is the preference of preventing potential pain, and the second is the purpose of propagating their premise of independence. Okay, so you see there, I want to prevent pain, and I want to propagate my own independence. I want my own cistern, and I want control of it, and I want to prevent pain. So there's the diagram again, naked, afraid, hiding, and it goes towards a pattern or a style that you need to be able to learn for yourself, and you need to be able to learn to recognize in other people. Now, we did not get these categories that we're going to do. We didn't get them from the Bible. We made these up, or somebody did, and we borrowed them from them. So this is not so you can go out and start labeling people. Although if you want to, it's kind of fun. But in the counseling session, I don't do this, but we're teaching you how to think that people are doing what they're doing with a purpose. And then they codify that or freeze it into habits. Then the habits become a personality, and they work it everywhere. And they don't know they're working it. Mostly don't know they're working it. They just go into it. So when a guy shuts down, right, and you ask him, when did you decide to do that? He didn't feel like he decided to do it. It was reflex, right? But he's done it so many times. So that's what we're talking about. So the way to hide, and that goes 4 different ways. We're going to talk about them. It goes to being little, it goes to being nice, it goes to be distant and busy, or strong and assertive. Okay, so you're on that page now with the grid. You see the grid? And there's 2 pages with the grid. There's one filled in, and there's one empty. So you can kind of do it whichever is your preference. But there's a continuum on the bottom of I guess it's page 9. There's a continuum, and the relational styles move up and down these continuums. So at one end, it's less assertive, and the other one, it might be more assertive. But you got the little boy and the little girl on one end, the nice guy and the good girl down towards that end, the distant man, the competent woman, more that way. The strongest, sorry about the abbreviation. We got the strong, assertive man. Nobody got that? Strong? Okay, never mind. Got the strong, assertive man, and of course your mother. No, that's not good. The strong, assertive woman. All right. So we're going to go through each of those. I've got to laugh on that one. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through each of these, and you know what your next group is going to be, right? Your next group is going to be to identify your own relational style as a way of learning how to see depravity and managing pain independently, managing life independently in others. This is not so that you go out again and label people. This is so you get the kind of category in your head. Secondly, if you don't know how you act out selfishly, if you don't know how you react and respond to disappointment, it'll hurt you in your attempts to love other people. For example, if strong emotion threatens me, some client comes into the office and says, in some way my emotional water won't work, and they're upset or they're angry, and if that bothers me, if I run from that, then I'm not going to be very helpful for them, and I need to be able to deal with that. So strong, assertive women intimidate me. So more than once I've wet my pants in the counseling room when it's strong. No, I'm just kidding. But it's scary. And so I got to deal with that, about how I deal with them or deal with that fear, and so do you. So this is practice. It's practice identifying your own. It's practice hearing other people in your group identify their own. And it's practice hearing them out and hearing the stories. So you get the idea of what we're doing? So we're going to go through each of these. And again, don't overthink this, and don't get too tied into it technically. The idea is, if you can see that you do something with your pain, and that can be idolatrous and selfish, that's the point. You'll get it. If you get the wrong one, but you put yourself on the selfish continuum, that's a win. Okay? So you're selfish. Everybody got that? All right. So, little boy, little girl, wrong strategy. The wrong strategy is take care of me, don't leave me, and that's the way they manage pain, manage disappointment. The relational style manages life by acting little or small. The strategy is to act cute, flirty. Helpless is a big word here. I don't know how to do something. Act confused, ingratiating, so that others will come through for you. That's what the little boy or the little girl does. Other people might feel sorry for them, or perhaps you might feel heroic for helping them. But then you might get tired of that cycle. You might feel like a hero or a hostage to the little boy or little girl. They can be fun and playful, but they don't come across as strong. And then they can get angry or pouty or fall apart if you don't come through for them. So Jen and I are driving up here, and we're trying to label our small group. Okay. And we got one woman in the small group that I'd put as a little girl. She's smart, but sometimes she doesn't let on that she's smart. She hides it. She can act a little dumber than she is. She can act helpless, more helpless than she is. She smiles a lot. She feels like she just wants to kind of be on your side all the time. In fact, I went to her house for a New Year's thing, dessert. And so somebody had given me one of our neighbors had given me a pecan pie for Christmas. And we froze it and took it to the dessert, right? Re-gift it there. And so I walk in, and my whole life group knows that I love pecan pie. You might want to write that down. I love pecan pie. I like pecan pie. And so we put it on the table, and then we have our prayer time, and then we do the dessert. And as we were leaving, she says, "How was the pecan pie?" And I said, it was a little dry, actually. And so she starts apologizing for the pecan pie that I brought from my neighbor, right? So she's acting like it's her fault, right? She's acting little. Okay, so that's a little girl. Don't leave me, take care of me. Okay, the nice guy, the good girl, like me and don't require of me. I'll be so nice you won't blame me, and nobody will ever be mad at me, and nobody will require strength or enemy from me, and I'll be okay. Manages life by being good or nice. They want others to like them or at least not find fault in them. So I'm with a friend of mine. This was, I've been married 2 or 3 years, and I got a phone call. I got to take this. It's my son. Should I take it? No, I'm just kidding. He would be really embarrassed. I should have done it. So we're driving, and we're talking about past relationships. And I tell him that, there's 2 or 3 gals I dated in college, and when we ended, we were still good friends. And he looked at me really strange, and he said, "How did you do that?" And it began to open my eyes. That's, I'm the kind of guy that would break up with you and say, "It's not you, it's me. God came to me and said we should break. You hear how manipulative that is and how stealing that is of other people's disappointment. Now, not everybody I broke up with was disappointed. Some were elated. But you see that, right? I sort of somehow managed to make them not see my fault in the matter. Good guy. They can be supportive and helpful, but on their terms. Don't ask for intimacy or strength. Mr. Congeniality. They avoid conflict through appeasement, people-pleasing, taking blame, self-contempt, or passive-aggressive behavior. This is a great one for passive-aggressive behavior. So I've got this client, and he's one of those people that always looks like he's about to smile. You're going to please him almost no matter what you say, right? It's the kind of guy you want to be around, right? He's going to laugh at your jokes. He's always ready to smile. So he comes to counseling and he says, my wife tells me that you just don't like any emotion. So I'm here to learn to like emotion. That's what a nice guy would say, right? My wife told me to come. I came. Teach me how to like emotion, right? The way what happens is, she says this when she's at the end of her rope. She gets angry with him when he's about to be nice and she wants some strength from him or she wants some intimacy from him. She gets angry at him and then says, why aren't you so, or that kind of thing. And he looks at me and he says, am I supposed to like anger? Because I'm willing to if I need to, right? That's a nice guy. So if I don't, let me see here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Am I supposed to like her anger? And he'll go home and he'll work on liking anger. He'll work on liking criticism, and it'll never come out right. Right? So he needs to deal with his being a nice guy so he can have some strength with his wife and says, I want to hear what you're going to say, but you got to say it to me differently. Can we do that? He needs some strength there. But if he hides behind his nice guy, it's going to be, she's going to continue to get irritable, and he's going to continue to hide behind that. Distant man, competent woman. Don't bother me, don't touch me, but need me. So this is the kid who always has the bat and ball. He brings the bat and ball so he'll make sure he gets chosen on the team, right? Because he's competent, he's got it with him. Competent men and women, distant men and women, they manage life by skills, knowledge, or distance. They're busy, distracted, aloof, bent on task and agenda. They know what needs to be done. They may manage the distance with silence or withholding or actual physical distance. They may tolerate emotion, but not too deeply. They just don't have time for it. They're getting the job done or even helping you. They may teach you how to live or may offer to, or they may keep away, but they're not emotionally connected. Other people might feel in the way or guilty for asking support or understanding, silly or intimidating. You get the idea. Now, when I've done this exercise, I usually put myself as a nice guy because that's the nicest sounding one. By the way, there's not a place on here that's good. Look for one. You're going to look for one in a few minutes, and there's not one. Nice guy sounds better, but it's not better. In fact, if your pastor is a conflict in your church, do you want a nice guy as your pastor? Well, you need a decision to be made. You know, if you go to lunch with nice guys or good girls, you know, you'll be there forever trying to decide where to go. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? But competent men and competent women, they'll choose. So, Jean used to ask me this question. She would say, ask it kind of playfully, but seriously. She'd say, so what's it like to be you? Right? So that makes me nervous. I complain about not being nice. On the way up here, she changed it. She said, if you were writing an autobiography, what would be in it? I was coming here, so I tried to answer it. And it turned out to be a halfway decent conversation. So if I don't go to that place, if I don't shrug it off, if I don't make a joke, then I'm out there. And that's what we don't want. We want to get away from that. So the thing we want, this is the way we do people, right? With our relational styles. I don't want you to go too far away, so come here, but I don't want you to come too close, so stay back. And people are supposed to find that little bitty wedge right there and be in there with us. That's what we do with our relational styles. The strong, assertive man and the strong, assertive woman, don't mess with me, respect me. Their strategy is, if I win, then I don't lose. If I stay on top of everything, if you're afraid of me, then you can't hurt me. Manages life by being assertive or aggressive. They are on top, in charge, certain, bulletproof, frontal. They may blame or attack or use sarcasm or intimidating posture. Always ready to engage, show no weakness. Coerce with forceful argument, anger, threats, power, guilt. Now that sounds all bad. Let me give you a little one that's more mild. Sometimes a strong, assertive man or woman will intimidate you with a lot of explanation. Calm explanation. Just inundate the conversation with it. That's a way of controlling things in a strong, assertive way too. Others want to please them or not cross them, and others might appreciate their leadership and even use it, but they don't relax around them or open up. So what do you do when you're afraid? How do you hide? These are some styles in which people do it. You get the idea? Everybody ready to pick who you are? Okay, so I want all the little boys to stand up. We're going to line up and go to the potty. Led by all the competent women. So we're going to go to the small groups again. We're going to get there just a little bit early. That's good. We'll get there a little bit early so you'll have some extra time to do it. I want to encourage you to be brave. Okay? Try to name yourself. Even try to think about the other people in your group. Some of them you've never met before, but you've read them a little bit. Where would you put them on the continuum? The goal here is not to be judgmental. The goal here is to learn to be discerning. If you can help someone see, if you can kindly help someone see the way they're hiding, then maybe you can help them not succeed in it and rejoin people and rejoin the Father. Okay? So be brave. Stick your neck out there a little bit. Go to small groups. The small group leaders know when to come back. Come back at the time that's assigned here.